Good Monday morning, everyone. I hope that your weekend was really, really great. As you heard in my video to introduce the day, today we're going to be talking about converting units of capacity. Now, I had you watch a video before we begin the converting just to get you used to what capacity is. Capacity is basically how much space something takes up. It's like volume. Um, in real life, we think of capacity as how much something will hold. And sometimes we need to change from one unit into another unit. And that's called converting. Now, today, I'm going to ask you to please have a couple of items ready. So you can pause this and go get them if you need to. I want you to have a pencil, a paper, and a multiplication chart if you have one. Now, let me pause for just a moment. Now, we're going to make this very simple. We're going to be using one tool today. And that tool is going to be a T-chart. And I'm going to show you how to convert units of capacity into other units of capacity through the rule of either multiplication or division. The really cool thing about converting is you only have two choices of operations. You're either going to multiply when you convert or you're going to divide. Okay? So we're going to practice this a little bit, and that's why I wanted you to have your paper. So I'm going to give you some problems that don't have a lot of words in them. Okay, and I just want you to practice this skill. So here we go. Okay, so let's say that I have a problem like this. I have 48 quarts, and I'm going to abbreviate quarts. I'm not going to spend all our time writing it out. And what I want to do, let's say it's something like this. I made 48 quarts of punch, and I want to put them in pints. In pint containers, and I need to know how many pint containers I would need to use up my 48 quarts. So I have a problem. I've got 48 quarts and I want to know how many pints that is. Okay? Now, this is a super easy problem. Here is our tool that we're going to use. Okay? We're going to use the T-chart. So I'm simply, don't stop and don't get confused, but draw your T-chart. Now, on the left side of the T-chart is always going to be what you know, the unit that we know. We know quarts. So I'm going to put it here. And I want to know pints. Now I'm going to keep saying one thing over and over again. I'm going from quarts, which is big, to pints, which is small. When I go from big to small, I multiply. That's all. You're going to see where that comes in. Now, I'm using my reference chart, and I'm going to start off easy so I can set up my rule. So I look for quarts and pints. Oh, I see right here that if I have 1 quart, it's 2 pints. I'm going to put that in here. 1 quart is 2 pints. Now, I'm trying to decide, did I multiply to get that, or did I divide? Well, I went from 1 to 2. It got bigger, so I multiplied. So I already know to change quarts to pints, I'm going to multiply. Well, what do I multiply 1 by to get 2? 1 times what would give me 2? If you said 2, you'd be right. So I'm going to put my 2 in there. Oh, my rule is however many quarts I have, I times it by 2, and that'll tell me how many pints. Now, here's what makes this quick and easy. Let me go to what we started off with. I had 48 quarts. Let me put that on the quart side. I want to know how many pints. My rule says times 2. Okay. So I might have to go do some calculations. You know what? I don't even care if you use a calculator for this one or a multiplication chart. I'm going to work it out the old-fashioned way. I'm going to go 48 times 2. Okay. 8 times 2 is 16, and we'll regroup. 4 times 2 is 8, and 1 more is 9. That is 96 pints. There's my answer. Very easy steps. Now I know that, oh, if I made up 48 quarts of punch and I wanted to put them into pint containers, I would get 96 pints. I would need 96 pint containers to fill it up. Let's try another one, okay? Remember, every time our strategy is going to be our T-chart, okay? So I'm going to change it this time. And I'm looking over here because I've got some problems I want to do. This time I'm going to have 15 pints. Okay. Maybe I bought 15 pints of ice cream and I'm having a party and I want to serve each person a cup of ice cream. How many people could I serve? So here's my problem again. I have 15 pints and I want to know how many cups that is. So I'm converting 15 pints into cups. Let's try that. Okay, I said our strategy is a T-chart. Draw your T-chart. There's my T-chart, simple. Okay, now I'm going to look for the unit that I know. I know pints, so I'll start with pints. It goes here. I don't know cups, that's what I want to know. So it's going to go over here. We're changing pints to cups. I'm going from a big unit to a small. Multiply, that's all. Now, in my T-chart, I'm going to go find out how do pints and quarts go together. So I'm going to look at my reference chart and I'm going to find, pints and cups. Pints and cups, here it is. If I have 1 pint, I have 2 cups. Okay, let me figure out the rule. Okay, how do I get from 1 to 2? Remember, in this case, my only choice is I multiply or I divide. Well, I went from a smaller to a bigger. Multiplication makes our outcome be bigger. So I'm going to say I'm going to multiply. And I think to myself, what 1 times what would give me 2? 1 times what would give me 2? Oh, 1 times 2. 1 times 2 equals 2. My rule is, however many pints I have, I'm going to times it by 2, and that'll tell me my cups. Let's go back to our problem. I have 15 pints, so I put it in my T-chart. My rule says if you want to know how many cups that is, times it by 2. Well, in my head, I knew that 15 times 2 is 30. So if I go back here into my problem, I say, oh, if I bought 15 pints of ice cream and I served each person a cup, how many could I serve? 30 people. Very, very easy. Let's try one more. And then I'm going to let you guys try. Okay, so now I'm going to try something different. Okay, this time I'm going to go from a smaller unit into a bigger unit. Okay, so I'm going to start off with 10 pints. Okay, 10 pints. And I want to know, this time I want to know how many quarts that is. Okay, now looks a little different. I'm not going to freak out though. I'm going to go right back to my strategy. Before I let myself get freaked out, I just draw my T-chart. On the left side of my T-chart is the unit I know. I know pints, so I'll put it there. I don't know quarts, so it'll go on the other side. Okay. Now, using my reference chart, I'm going to go back and see how pints goes with quarts. So I look for any place on here that tells me about pints and quarts. Oh, right here. Okay. It says that if I have 2 pints, so that's got to go on this side. See, the 2 goes with pints. This is pints. It makes 1 quart. So now I'm going to try to think of my rule. Well, I know I can either multiply or divide. So let me see how this changed. I went from a 2 down to a 1. So my outcome became smaller. Multiplication makes things get bigger. So I know I must divide. So I think, 2 divided by what would give me 1? 2 divided by what? Oh, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I now know that my rule is divide by 2. Whatever the number of pints I put in, I divide it by 2 and it'll tell me my quarts. So I'll put that in there. In my problem, I had 10 pints, so I write that down. I divide by 2. My outcome is 5. Oh, 10 pints is the same as having 5 quarts. Okay? All right. So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to the next slide and you're going to practice this on your own. And I'm going to try to give you some information on how to do it. Do not skip it.